It's hard for middle-class West Virginians to get legal help. Imagine what happens if you're poor or disabled. We'll talk about Legal Aid of West Virginia right now on The Law Works.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Closed captioning for The Law Works is made possible by a grant from the Monongalia County Bar Association to support legal information and education for all West Virginians. The Law Works is made possible by major grants from the Office of the West Virginia Attorney General and from Software Systems Incorporated, a West Virginia company established in 1975 which provides high-end support services, programming, and consulting for county government AS400 mid-range computer systems, as well as PC-based systems, and by a grant from the West Virginia Bar Foundation. The West Virginia Bar Foundation, the philanthropic organization for West Virginia's legal profession and justice system, promoting public knowledge of the law in West Virginia.
Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. That's from Matthew 25:40. If, as some say, we are a Christian state and nation, why don't we follow that? My guests are Kate White, Access to Services Manager for Legal Aid of West Virginia, and Christine Schneider, Supervising Attorney at the Morgantown office of Legal Aid of West Virginia. I suppose we should point out that Legal Aid is not a religious organization. You're a law firm in very real terms. Besides that, what is Legal Aid?
Well, Legal Aid of West Virginia is a statewide organization. It's a nonprofit law firm, and with 12 offices around the state, it compiles what's one of the biggest law firms in the state. Not the biggest or the second biggest or third biggest, but it's a big law firm. We have about 50 lawyers statewide. We handle civil problems. We can help people who have low incomes, and it's free legal services. We don't charge a fee to our clients. We cannot do any criminal law. So all the cases that we serve our clients, in all the cases that we serve our clients, they are not paying for their services, but we can't represent them in criminal proceedings.
Of course, criminal cases are handled differently. The federal government has declared a constitutional right to the assistance of counsel if you're involved, if you're accused of a criminal matter.
Right.
But we don't do that in civil matters.
That's right. There is no constitutional right to an attorney in any kind of case, just in a criminal case for a defendant who's been accused of a crime. So Legal Aid of West Virginia is where people have to turn to if they can't afford an attorney in any other kind of case other than a criminal case.
But that's not to say don't want to pay for a lawyer. That's to say if you cannot obtain counsel on your own because of financial restrictions on you.
Right.
And you have how many lawyers?
About 50 lawyers.
Well, maybe it's just coincidence. We have 55 counties in West Virginia. You have a lawyer per county at best.
Mm-hmm. We have some lawyers who cover huge territories of the state. We have one lawyer in our Morgantown office who just helps children who have behavioral health disorders, and she covers the entire top half of the state. And then her counterpart is in Princeton, who helps children who have behavioral health disorders in the bottom half of the entire state. So
that would be representing these kids to get benefits.
It could be.
To deal with school systems that are having trouble with them.
Right.
To make sure that they are treated the way the law says they should be treated.
Yes. That's just one example of the wide variety of cases that Legal Aid can handle. Sometimes people think that Legal Aid of West Virginia just does family law cases, but we do so much more than that. We do have a priority on helping victims of domestic violence, so we do family law cases, but we also do consumer law problems, helping clients with creditor harassment cases, predatory lending, foreclosure problems. We help clients obtain Social Security disability benefits. We can help clients who are facing homelessness or eviction in a landlord-tenant proceeding.
We can also help people if they need assistance with food stamps or Medicaid, getting any of those type of benefits issues that they're having. We also help people with that.
That's overwhelming. I can't do all of those things. And we're a population of about 1.83, I think, at the last census, million people in West Virginia. And you have, on the average, one lawyer per county, but you don't have one lawyer in each county. You're not able to do that.
Right. Oh, and we have 12 offices around the state. They are in Wheeling, Elkins, Morgantown, Martinsburg, Clarksburg, Elkins, Lewisburg, Princeton, Beckley, Logan, Huntington, Charleston, and Parkersburg. I think that's 12. So
You say that because I bet you couldn't.
but each office has a coverage area. In Morgantown, our coverage area, our primary coverage area is Monongalia County, which is Morgantown, Preston County, and Marion County. So,
Geographically, that seems reasonable.
yes.
But you do have at least one attorney who covers the whole northern part of the state.
Right, yes. In certain areas, we have different attorneys who have certain funding sources that control the kind of cases that they can take.
Well, that's a good point. How are you funded? Where does the money come from?
About half of our funding comes from a quasi-governmental entity from the federal government. Back in the 70s, the Nixon and Johnson administrations came up with the idea of having the federal government set aside some dollars to fund legal aid programs nationwide. And that's called the Legal Services Corporation. So every year, United States Congress decides how much money to fund this Legal Services Corporation, and then that corporation doles it out to all 50 states' legal aid programs. And so that's where about half of our funding comes from.
Are they generous?
Well,
Now, don't say anything politically incorrect. Of course they're generous. How generous are they?
That's a matter of interpretation of whether you would want to call it generous or not. But the problem that we've been having is the funding, even though prices keep going up, services are at an increased demand, especially at this time. Our funding has been cut. Sometimes just a level amount of funding seems like a cut, but this is actually a cut where we had this year had to eliminate 9 positions statewide from the entire program, and we almost had to close the Logan office. We came very, very close.
Are these lawyer positions or paralegal positions?
The proposed cut for the closing of the Logan office would have eliminated an attorney position, but since that office was saved from that cut, there were no attorney positions that were lost through that cut. What we lost were 9 paralegals who handled cases. They handled Social Security disability benefits cases under the supervision of an attorney. They had their own caseloads, so they were helping clients who were facing benefits terminations for food stamps and medical cards and programs where disabled people could stay at home and have a caregiver come in and help them.
But paralegals are more, we use the term paralegals. What it really is kind of assistant lawyers. They don't have law degrees, but they are very skilled in helping lawyers, and in some cases, before administrative boards, can represent people.
Yes, that's what our paralegals were
They were
doing.
case handlers in those certain administrative proceedings that we can help with.
With only 50 lawyers, though, you have to have, and the positions were cut. How was Logan identified as an office that might be closed?
It is the smallest office. It covers 2 counties. Is that right? I'm pretty sure.
I believe Mingo and Logan. I know that it covers Mingo and Logan.
I'm in Morgantown, so
that's a long way away.
Long way away.
Yeah.
I've never actually been to Logan, but my understanding is it's the smallest office. That it was the office's coverage area was an area that the Charleston office had hoped to be able to cover. It's probably an hour from Charleston.
I would think that that's the southern coal fields. I would think that need for services down there would be huge.
Absolutely. Disability is a large issue in that part of the state. Domestic violence is as well. Absolutely. I mean, there is a real legal need there, and if the office had closed, it would have stretched the Charleston attorneys to cover a whole nother area that they had not, previously been covering. It definitely would have been a drain on some of their resources.
We're talking about Legal Aid of West Virginia. My guests are Kate White, Access to Services Manager for Legal Aid of West Virginia, and Christine Schneider, Supervising Attorney of the Morgantown Office for Legal Aid of West Virginia. I'm Dan Ringer, and this is The Law Works. I have heard it suggested that there is serious talk about defunding legal aid, which I guess would be Legal Services Corporation, entirely. What would happen if
It would be a huge cut to our funding. I mean, we do get funding from other nonprofit organizations and foundations, and through some civil legal fees. But as Christine said earlier, approximately 50% of our budget is related to LSC. I'm not the best person to speak about what exactly would happen, but it would be definitely detrimental to our ability to provide services across the state.
Well, we frequently hear comments about defunding PBS too, and obviously this is a public broadcasting station. I've analyzed that, and I know that West Virginia public broadcasting would just simply implode. There would be no way for us to continue as a viable local broadcasting entity if we were defunded, and I've got to think the same sort of thing would happen to you. If you take away half the budget, well, take away half your resources, half your lawyers, half your paralegals, half your offices. You couldn't exist without some serious changes otherwise. Who's helping you?
Well, we do have a campaign for legal aid as part of our organization's mission. We're always seeking donations, so the private bar has been really helpful in that from year to year, every year in donations. We also recruit, as part of what legal aid does, we recruit private attorneys to take cases that we don't have the capacity to take, for clients who are eligible for our services.
I have watched the campaign for legal aid over the years. It seems to be targeted mostly to lawyers to raise money to support legal aid.
Yes.
Do you get significant contributions from private individuals, not through foundations, but just from the man and woman on the street?
I believe it's mostly the attorney community. I'm sure that there are probably individuals that are not attorneys that do contribute to legal aid, but I believe it is primarily the legal community that makes those donations to help support the campaign. In
Morgantown, about 10 or 15 years ago, we did receive a very nice donation from a former client, and she had received a settlement in a case, and she wanted to give that to legal aid, and so we still remember that. It doesn't happen very often, but we're really appreciative of that.
Because it can't happen very often. In fact, you can't take cases that are said to be fee-generating cases where enough money comes back that you can pay for the legal services and give money to the client. Is that correct?
Actually, there was a restriction from the Legal Services Corporation that said we could not accept attorney fees, and within the last year or so, the Legal Services Corporation said now you can accept attorney's fees. So within the last year and a half, we've been working on different types of cases now where we're trying to ask for them where it's appropriate.
Okay, but that's asking for an award of attorney's fees from the court.
Correct.
That's not a personal injury case where somebody gets hundreds of thousands of dollars because
Right.
they were seriously injured,
Right.
and you don't get a third of that, or because you can't handle those cases.
But that's the kind of case that a private attorney could profit from. So we cannot take cases away from the private bar. So anytime we come across a case where a private attorney could benefit from it and could earn money from it, then we will first have that potential client try to get services from a private attorney. If they get turned down by several attorneys, then we could consider taking it.
In most cases, though, where legal aid help is appropriate, you have a client who is without resources, oftentimes against another person who is similarly without resources. Divorce cases, for example, domestic violence cases. So on the one hand, the court can say, okay, Mr. or Miss Wrongdoer, I'm going to order you to pay X number of dollars as attorney's fees to the other party. You would get those, but you can't award attorney's fees against somebody who doesn't have money to pay them with. How do you resolve that conflict? Two people both need free or reduced fee services. Can you represent both of them?
No. Part of what we do in having a priority in helping victims of domestic violence is usually when we're in family law, and if there is only one attorney representing the person who's the victim of domestic violence, it just equals out an unfair balance of power, because the other side in the case, even if they're not represented, they as someone who has characteristics of an abusive personality will try to dominate and manipulate the situation. So sometimes even just being a physical body between the two sides, as the abusive person is glaring at the other person, you can just be a buffer in between, and just having that someone to sit there and support them and know they're on their side can make a huge difference.
So you don't necessarily have to be a lawyer in those situations. You just have to be there.
Just being there sometimes can make a world of difference to someone who, has no resources and doesn't know what to say in court and doesn't know the judge and doesn't know what to expect.
But if they have someone that can help them, prepare them, and empower them, it can really make a difference.
We're talking about Legal Aid of West Virginia. My guests are Kate White, Access to Services Manager for Legal Aid of West Virginia, and Christine Schneider, Supervising Attorney of the Morgantown Office of Legal Aid. I'm Dan Ringer, and this is The Law Works. The primary excuse that I have heard from lawyers who do not want to assist in these kinds of cases are, I don't know anything about that area of law.
We can absolutely offer training in a number of areas. We can train on family law. We can train on domestic violence. We can train on simple things like wills and bankruptcy. We've got private bar attorneys that help us train others, and then we've got some incredible attorneys and resources within Legal Aid who are really the experts in some of these areas that we can offer training to the bar, and we can actually co-counsel and stay actually in a case with a private attorney to help them get through it, to help them learn this area of the law so that they would feel more comfortable. We also have malpractice insurance coverage. If an attorney would actually take a case through Legal Aid, they would be covered by our malpractice and wouldn't have to worry about that burden on their own. So we have a lot of resources we can offer people that don't traditionally know an area that we do. And I will say that we get issues in wills, property, that are areas that I know attorneys know. And so that, it's not just, I think like Christine was saying earlier, we don't just get family law. There are a lot of legal issues that come in through Legal Aid.
I can see particularly young attorneys who really don't have any experience really in any areas of law. If they would volunteer to work with you, you have the opportunity to train them in the fundamental areas of law, which is basically what you see. You're not talking about negotiating rights of ways for interstate highways or anything like that. But a young attorney could volunteer to work with you, could learn a lot about the practical aspects of law practice, and then could turn that into a good paying job for them in their own practice.
Absolutely. You get experience interviewing clients, doing research, dealing with the court system, dealing with opposing parties that are all very important to a legal practice. And to be honest, if you work with a client and they like you, they'll refer you out, and it could actually bring some business if you were trying to start your own practice and trying to make some connections in an area, that it could actually really help build your practice just by getting to know some people through doing some good casework for them.
It's hard for a young lawyer to get started in practice in West Virginia. There are lots of people out there who think, well, you're a lawyer, you must be very wealthy, you must be very successful. That may have been true decades ago. That's not the way it is now. There are lots of young lawyers coming out and trying to establish themselves in practice. They have no clients, They have limited skills. They have the theoretical skills that you learn in law school, although I will say the West Virginia University College of Law is running now an excellent series of clinic programs where law students do get practical experience. But going out on your own is different. And you're kind of help for them too.
Sure, sure. And we can offer, it's not always just full representation in a case. We often have days, we call them free days or advice and clinic advice days, where we set appointments for attorneys to meet with clients for half an hour, 45 minutes to hear their legal problem, to talk to them, to give them some advice. And for some people that can make a huge difference, just knowing that they got to talk to a lawyer, that the attorney heard what they said and gave them some advice based on it. That can oftentimes make a real difference in someone's life. So if you can't take that case that may go on for a few months and just want to commit a discrete period of time to help, we can absolutely work with people to give them the right kind of case and situation where they could donate their time.
Well, another thing that you do that I wish you didn't have to do, but I recognize the need for it given your limited resources, is you help people prepare themselves to represent themselves. It's pro se representation is the legal term for it. Pro se meaning basically I represent myself. But you can help them learn to present their evidence, their story, their case, fill out the forms, know what the next step is.
Absolutely, and that can make a huge difference for someone who's never been through the court system and doesn't know what the word petitioner or respondent means. So absolutely, legal aid attorneys help clients do that, and we can also have pro bono attorneys help clients get prepared to go to court, help them figure out what evidence they need and might need to get together, but not actually be in the case and go with them to court.
How would someone contact you if they needed your assistance?
They can call legal aid to apply for assistance. It's 1-800-255-4370, and that's our intake number that's open Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 8:30 to 3, and on Tuesdays from 8:30 to 12:30, and then in the evening on Tuesdays for those people that have to work from 6 to 8 o'clock.
That's 1-866, I did the same thing, 1-866-255-4370. Now it's important to understand that you can't send them an email, you can't drop by an office to ask for assistance. You must call 1-866-255-4370. The only way you can apply for legal aid services is over the telephone.
You can come into the local office, and we have phones in each office that if you pick it up, you'll actually be linked to that phone number. So if you do
come to the office to call,
you can make the call
intake
from the office.
You also have a website, lawv.net. lawv.net. There's a lot of information there, including, if I can throw this in, information on how you might make a contribution to legal aid if you're inclined to do so. And seriously, I would suggest that you think about that. Last couple of minutes we have in the show. I have one question. You can answer it or not. Why do you do this? I've got to think that the burnout rate for legal aid attorneys is huge. You see problems that are overwhelming, sometimes insolvable. Christine, why?
Well, I think that my experience in helping clients is a lot like someone who has their own private firm. And I say that because when I'm in a case and I'm representing my client and the opposing party is represented by a lawyer, they're actually experiencing very much what I am. So I think that it's really not that different from any other lawyer's experience. I mean, in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. But
other lawyers, Christine, can say, I anticipate making a lot of money doing this. Law, although it is difficult to get started, can be a very financially rewarding career. Kate, why are you doing this?
I went to law school because I want to help people, and legal aid absolutely gives me that opportunity to help people on a daily basis. It's challenging, and there are days when you hear stories that just break your heart, but in the end, I know that I'm helping someone try to get to a better place, and that That's why I want to work there. That's why I work there. And I think that's why most people that work there and stay there. We've got some dedicated attorneys who have been there for a number of years, and they keep doing it, I think, for that very reason.
Every couple of months, maybe every 6 months or so, I have a case or an experience or one little moment where I feel like that what I did made a big difference. If I weren't there, this person would have had no help at all. And so I was able to ask a few questions in court to bring out the right information that I knew the judge needed to hear. And so
Christine?
those few moments make it, they
Christine,
do
Kate,
make it.
you're heroes in the legal profession. You are. Thank you, Christine. Kate, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having us.
Thank you also for being with us. On behalf of the Law Works, I'm Dan Ringer. Good evening. If you would like to suggest a topic for a future The Law Works show, or if you're a school teacher and would like to receive a DVD of this show for classroom use, send us an email to thelawworks@comcast.net or visit us on Facebook. On the Law Works website at thelawworks.org, you'll find a listing of recent The Law Works programs, additional information about this show's topic, and video of this and recent shows. You can also find the Law Works programs on YouTube and iTunes.
The Law Works is produced in cooperation with the Office of the West Virginia Attorney General, the West Virginia Bar Foundation, the Mountain State Bar, the Monongalia County Bar Association, and the West Virginia University College of Law. The Law Works is made possible by major grants from the Office of the West Virginia Attorney General and from Software Systems Incorporated, a West Virginia company established in 1975 which provides high-end support services, programming, and consulting for county government AS400 mid-range computer systems, as well as PC-based systems, and by a grant from the West Virginia Bar Foundation. The West Virginia Bar Foundation, the philanthropic organization for West Virginia's legal profession and justice system, promoting public knowledge of the law in West Virginia. Additional support for the Law Works is provided by the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.